All right, hey people, Russ Jensen. So it's about 5 minutes to 8 p.m. on the 19th day of January 2019 here in Salt Lake City, Utah. So yeah, it was a pretty fantastic day today. We had a video conference call with our team over in West Africa, and a fairly sizable gathering that Pastor Jackson was participating in, and had an opportunity then to share information about Karat bars and getting people involved. So I'm not really sure. I know it was a really fantastic turnout, but the problem is over there, not everybody has a laptop and 2 phones like we have here, and so the registration process, but we had a lot of people that pre-registered. That's what we're working on, is in anticipation of Liberia becoming an official country. But I think he was saying somewhere north of 200 today. So fantastic job, great job, Pastor. Brand new team members for with us on Success Group, so we want to welcome everybody. Really appreciate your participation and joining with us in this fantastic Karat Bars journey. So I wanted to talk a little bit, going back to a question I posed earlier in the week, about is there a difference between the top producers and the other people that are somewhere that wide spectrum between doing absolutely nothing and somewhere in between, on their way to becoming a top producer. But is there something that those particular people know, or how a certain way that they might act, or a certain personality type? Do you think that that's really what is the determining factor? So I found in my business career that it's always been helpful for me to rely on a couple of things: science and math. So, not that I'm very good at math, but if we try to apply some principles of science, math, natural law, naturally occurring principles, things that happen, to the activities that we're doing, perhaps maybe we can find out what the difference is between these people that build these gigantic organizations and everybody else. So a lot of people are familiar with Pareto, the Pareto ratio, which is basically says that 20% of the effort produces 80% of the results. Now that can be switched around too, that says, hey, the last 20% takes 80% of the time. Or as my dad used to say, yeah, the last 10% takes 90% of the time when we're on these construction projects. It's really true. But that 20-80 is very important if we begin to look at the other thing that was discovered back in 1896. Or not, that was Pareto, was 1896. Will Hall from AT&T Labs in 2006, kind of when the internet was being closely examined and people were really coming up and getting better informed about how things were really operating. They had enough time in the internet then to really have a big enough data sampling to really be able to come up with some concrete numbers that could be relevant across almost any application. And surprisingly, we found out that it applies not only on internet, but just in communities in general, which is the participation inequality. What they found was that in an internet community of any kind, or a community of any kind, that 90% of the people would consume content. They would just read, they would just view content. That's where that whole lurking terminology came from. And that 9% will actively edit content that they have access to, add to, or change correct. And 1% are actively creating content. And we can find that similar ratio in any kind of a community, whether it's a sales organization, a restaurant, the medical field. Start to find that these ratios can apply to various types of defined communities. So what we can begin to look at now is we've got 20% of our activities producing 80% of our results. And now this little information we have about how communities of people operate, understanding that 90% don't do anything. They're just there. 9% sort of kind of participate in certain ways, and 1% are the people that go and make it happen. Now, Bill Bricks is a very famous network marketer in Amway, multi-millionaire, and he has a saying that's quoted all the time. I've quoted a number of times, but talking about the fact that there's no secret. He just simply showed the plan to 1,200 people. And out of that, 900 said no. 300 got involved. Out of that 385 kind of sort of did something. So that 300 just sort of got involved but didn't really do anything. 85 kind of did something. 35 were sort of serious. And 11 made him a millionaire. So if we look at this 1% number, we look at 11 out of 1,200, that's just shy of 1% that made him his millionaire, made him his millions, built his organization for him. And you will find that time and time again in this particular industry, that it's a few that build, and those that develop these large organizations do it with the assistance of this other 1% that they go to find. And yet, they understand they've got to go through 90% of people that are going to do absolutely nothing at all. Oh, they'll look at your stuff, but they're not going to get committed in any kind of a way. Then there's a 9% that are going to be somewhat participatory in your organization, what you're doing at some level. And then there's going to be 1% that are the content creators, the people that go out and then duplicate that same process of going through 90%, 9% to find the 1%. And then that 1%, they teach them what they're doing, and they do the exact same thing. 90% won't do anything. 9% might kind of do a little bit, and 1%, that's the money. Okay, that's where we're at. So we combine this now with the Pareto ratio of 20% produces 80% of our results. So that's 1/5. We need to begin figuring out what 20% of our activities are producing the 80% of our results. Now, if we define our results, that's down to 10% basically. You got your 9% of something, some people that are going to do something of some kind, and the 1%ers that everybody hopes to find, and you will, if you go through a sufficiently large number of other individuals to find them. Because that relationship, that ratio is across all of society. The 1%ers, okay, you know what they always say, the 1%ers? There's an interesting factoid. I thought it was going to be a lot higher, but I did research not too long ago that says to be in the top 1% of the wealthy on the entire planet requires a net worth of $897,000. Now, I know people in the network marketing industry that make that in a month. Okay, so, but it's very true. We have to understand that. And so, going back to answering the question that I posed, is there a difference between the producers, the top achievers, and everybody else? Yeah, there is. They do more activities go through more 90%, 9% to find their 1%, to teach those 1% what they're doing to do the exact same thing than the rest of us are doing. That's it. Now, they've also understand the other side of the Pareto relationship, which is efficiency. Understanding what 20% out of their activities that they're doing during the day are producing their results for them. And a lot of that has to do with where you're at in the development of your organization. When you're just starting out, it's you and a lot of direct contacts with your network that you're developing and building. And as you become more experienced and your organization grows larger, then you have to begin transitioning from that into a leadership and training role. And so that's really where the top leadership understand. They look for leaders in their organization, begin to work with them to help develop them, to bring them up to a sufficient level where that leader then can then go off and find his own set of leadership, his own 1% in his organization. So we're talking tiny numbers, people. Talking big sampling, small numbers that are producing our results that we're looking at. If we're looking at the outcomes of monetary outcomes, rank or achievement level outcomes. The thing that I think that is important for people to keep in mind, okay, that 90% seems like it's it should be a big, so many people, there's not interested and so on and so forth. It's easy to get discouraged. But what you're not factoring into that, you absolutely must, is the fact that when you talk to that person, that 90%er, presenting them information about KaratBars or whatever it is that you're involved in, you've made an impact on that person. You've added value to their life, whether or not, even if, in spite of the fact they don't come join you today or tomorrow or next year. I know a lot of people that were introduced in KaratBars and they're just getting involved, coming back in now. It's a common story. But even if they don't, you've provided value to them by information. You've given them something more that they didn't have previously. What's the Einstein statement? You know, once you're exposed to information, you've expanded your mind, but you can't go back. And in that 90%, maybe talking to somebody they know at work, which then triggers to somebody else. It's the ripple marketing effect. I'm just starting this great book by David Scultier. Oh God, I'm sorry. Sorry, David, I butchered your name. I can't really pronounce it. I can't read my writing either. But ripple marketing, same kind of a thing. They're now talking to other people in the community that has an impact on your ability then to have success in that community, because they're spreading your message for you with you not even necessarily understanding it. That's what's happening. Even what they say, bad publicity is good, better than no publicity at all. And so sometimes when people are talking about these things, it's creating energy for us in the community that we're working in. So I apologize, David. Yeah, keep those things in mind, people. It's a numbers game that requires consistent effort to a large enough sampling of people. You're going to get results. That's just the science, okay? And out of that, we then have to begin looking very carefully at what our activities are. Are we actually engaging in the 20% of activities that produce revenue for us or produce results of whatever it is that we're trying to develop in our organization at that point in time? So Brian Tracy, very famous consultant and trainer, talks about the fact there have been multiple studies that talk about that in the sales industry, and we're in the sales industry, people, whether we're presenting information, getting people to watch a video or not, you're selling. We're always selling. But anyways, in the sales industry, it talks about in professional selling that the rule of thumb has always been 90 minutes a day. That's about the average that salespeople are engaging in the sales activity. That's actually being in front of a prospective customer or a prospective business partner or a prospective brand partner, whatever it is, the terminology that you're using, 90 minutes a day. I know for a fact that my team leader, Brian McGinty, and another fantastic network marketing organization builder that I just was introduced to, Scarlett Mouse, or in the beginning and even now, okay, considerably more than 90 minutes a day building their organizations. Of course, they're both at the top levels of their organization, top levels of the company, and so they're in a different mindset, a different place than a lot of the rest of us are during the whole leadership development, working with their teams. So they're not necessarily out looking for new recruits, new brand partners, but they're helping bring new brand partners and new customers into their organizations by working with their other affiliates in their teams, but far in excess of 90 minutes. So you're not getting the results that you'd like to have. You need to take a look at the activities that you're doing. Number one, are you spending a lot of time just getting ready to get out the door, dilly-dallying around, looking on Facebook and email and making a quick phone call, okay? Or are you out there actually asking the question, if I could, would you, will you, then doing the follow-up and those other activities. But those are revenue-producing activities for us. You need to do what Brian Tracy suggests. Take a stopwatch with you, and when you walk into your appointment, you click it. When you leave, you click it, and you be honest and keep track and see how much time you're actually spending doing those types of activities. So 80% of our results come from 20% of our efforts. It's important to understand what that 20% is and where we're devoting our time. 90% of people are not going to do anything. Doesn't matter. It's not your opportunity. It's not you. That's just how it is in reality. That's statistically and scientifically proven. 90% of people won't do anything in that particular community. 9% will do something. That's great. That keeps you going, gets the little things going. And in that 9%, you're going to find your 1%. Then we do it all over again. 1,200, 900 said no. Did he give up? No. Okay, 300 signed up, but they didn't do anything. Well, 85 did, kind of, sort of, maybe made an order or two. Then 35 sort of kind of, did what they could and had some small successes and stayed steady in the business. 11 made him his huge organization, and that's what we're looking for, people. I'm not saying we're out hunting for talent, but we're planting seeds, hoping that we find fertile ground and our message resonates, and we find somebody else that's looking for something just like this, and we give them the opportunity, provide them the tools, get them plugged into our organizations. Excuse me. And that's what we end up doing. That's how we build. That's the difference between the top producers and everybody else. 80-20, 90-9-1. That's it. So, love everybody. I'm sorry I went long tonight, but my 40 Days to Amazing series. We've been building a new podcasting and video vlogging studio, so I don't have to stand in my little office right here, although I love this place. What people tell me I've got to do something bigger, got out of my comfort zone. So anyways, but that's not quite done yet, so we're going to be finishing that. Maybe we'll be done tomorrow, but just want to make sure when we start this thing, we're starting off on the right foot and doing the right things. So I'll come back tomorrow and talk about some of those things, some of the things that we've worked on now for almost a year and a half. Developing a system that we've been putting into place. In fact, that's the reason why this organization is allowed to meet. Love everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.